Well, it's the next day. We're back in the old shop, and as you can see, before I left last night, went in the house, I spent some quality time with the remainder of our clamps. We had to do this, might as well do it. Clamped a bunch of loose crap up and everything. It's not, I didn't get it all because I didn't have enough clamps. One thing about clamps, they're like gator wires. You never have enough. I've never seen anything like. I don't care if you got 1,000 clamps, it's never going to be enough. Anyway, I clamped everything. We'll go ahead and remove it shortly and do a little more clamping before I go home tonight. Before I go to the house tonight. Because we're going to be working on the mechanism today, remember? But we do have a couple of questions to answer. The first question came from our good buddy and good subscriber, Scott Johnston. He said, I can't tell by looking at the speakers, but do you have cardboard over them to protect them? Well, I'll tell you what, Scott, take a look at what we have here. Do we really need cardboard at this stage of the game if we got this old hard table doing it for us? No. Now, if I pick these speakers up, flip them over, or I handle them in any way, to hook up wires and whatnot, yes, I will put the cardboard on at that time. But right now, they are perfectly safe because no cardboard is harder than that. What's the next question? One of our subscribers wanted to know if I knew the original price of this jukebox. No, I don't. I looked around, couldn't find it. Maybe someone else can do it. Maybe they have a Seeburg catalog that can tell it. But back in those days, I recall just about everything was $495 to $995. That's $495 to $995. Just that was the range across the board. Some of them were even cheaper, $395, but almost everything that had electronics, it was big and it was cool, it was $495 to $995, okay? The next one was our good subscriber, Brett. He said that, the amplifier you've got will work great. It's a good workhorse type thing. Most of the problems we have with these old jukeboxes, as far as sound quality goes, is not the amplifier. It's that baby right there. It's the head and the needles. The head shell. I always call it the cartridge and the needle. Well, we're going to take a look at that today and see what it looks like. We'll try to get a little bit close. And I have to figure out maybe how to get it off. I may want to take that off and protect it. I don't know. But we will be taking this off for sure. One more thing, our good subscriber again, Sparky1958, he said that this Tormat, the TSU1 Tormat selector unit, that's what TSU stands for, should be a TSU3. But he wasn't sure if the TSU1 would go ahead and work anyway. Well, I looked it up. I did a little research on that. Come to find out the only real difference between the two is the remote capability. As far as I can tell, this terminal board on a TSU1 has 3 terminals. On a TSU3, it has 4 terminals. And what they do is jumper the last 2 if you do not have remote capability. The way it reads here in the book is, I'll just go ahead and read it for you. The type TSU1, 3, and 5 is used with conventional phonographs having electrical selector only or electrical selector in combination with remote control. Ours will be a electrical selector only from the keyboard. So I think we're good to go. Another question came up as to why this tape was over this 6BJ6 tube socket. There's a reason for that. I remember reading about it now. It had been a while since I read it. Sometimes in a jukebox with 45 RPM records, you got some that were loud and some that were not so loud. Well, these 2 tubes, this 6BJ6 and this 6BJ6 forms a automatic volume control compensation network, which means if it's too loud, it'll bring it down. If it's too soft, it'll bring it up. You don't have to run with it. It says right here in the instructions, if you don't want to worry about all that crap, just go ahead and take out both of them and forget it. Now, why one of them is out and the other one is taped, I don't know. I might just go ahead and put a couple in there, clean this out, get this tape off here, clean them out, spray them out real good one more time, and then put them in there, see if it makes any difference. It doesn't matter to me. Even if it doesn't, I probably wouldn't be able to tell. So now you know why it's there. We don't need them. But what the heck, let's go for it. By the way, these little old transistors that were here, I took them out yesterday, sprayed everything, cleaned them all up, straightened the pins, so those there are also good to go. I don't know if those are going to work at all. One more thing, it wasn't a question, but I want everybody to be aware of it. This is our Tormat selector unit, our TSU1, code A, and it has a 6x4 rectifier tube right here. And Brendan is concerned about that. He's not too keen on that idea right there. He also wants me to check out the power transformer on that thing, which I will do. I'll probably do that after this video is over, when I can sit down and spend some time on it. And he thinks we ought to go with some solid state stuff right there. I agree with him. I think we can do that. It's a small tube, but it can cause problems. And we'll go over that when the time comes. Alright, let's move on to our mechanism. Now, in the book, there is a really good section on the mechanism. They have a good photograph of it. They show the machines. And it's just page after page of how to adjust this, how to do that. Most of it's on the rear, where all the clutch mechanisms and all that stuff are. They don't give a whole lot of instructions on, the finite details. I've been going through it and I haven't found the way to remove the needle and cartridge yet, but I'm sure it's here. I just haven't gotten to it. So let me tell you what I want everybody to understand the concept that I have in my head about how we're going to deal with this entire setup. Once we replace all the capacitors and resistors and clean all the contacts and everything one more time on both the amp, and of course we ohm all the transformers out and all the coils and everything, make sure everything's good. Anything that's not good, we're going to fix. But once all that's done, the amplifier, the Tormat, the keyboard, and what we're going to do is we're going to clean this thing really good. We're going to clean the contacts really good. We're going to put lubrication in it and oil it where this book tells us to do. Okay? And once all that is done, cleaned, lubricated, we're going to hook everything up. I'm going to have a couple of tables in here. I'm going to have this thing spread out. The speakers will be connected, everything. We'll put a couple of records in the slots, and then we're going to find out if this thing's going to work. We don't need to put those letter and number keys on the electrical selector, the Tormat electrical selector, the keyboard. All we have to do is press the buttons. I'll have each one labeled with a piece of paper or something, or a piece of tape. But once all that's done, we're going to test it right here on the bench. And if it plays, we're off and running, folks. But what I'm trying to tell you is I don't want to go overboard on this and screw something up. Now, according to the seller, the one I bought it from, Cindy, she said it did work until the back door of the cabinet fell off. And when it did, it messed up something. Well, she didn't realize it broke one of the tubes in the amplifier. And we're going to replace all those tubes, by the way, everything. So that's what's going to happen. And it shouldn't be that far away, because, I've got everything cleaned except for this. The biggest problem is going to be the electrical change out of the components in the amplifier. So it won't be that far away. But right now, I want to get this baby off. So let's take a look and see what it entails. Well, I'll tell you what, trying to figure out how to get this cover off has proven to be Mount Olympus here. However, I did figure out that I know we have to take that screw out right there, and we also have to take out that there's a lock ring right there that has to come off right there on that pin. And there's also something that was kind of interesting that I found. Look up in there. What do you see? It's just a bolt up in there. We'll get that out. And I think I figured out, I went into YouTube and checked a few videos in there, and there were some other types of jukeboxes that essentially had the same sort of stylus or cartridge head, or what they call a red head. That screw right there, remove that Phillips head screw, and I ought to be able to unplug the entire head, which I want to do because I want this thing kept away for safekeeping. I don't want to take any chance on damaging it. So let's see if we can get the cartridge head out of there first. Once again, you need to use the right size screwdriver for the screw. Don't be using one that's too big or too small. This one here will take a number 1. That's right, screwdrivers have sizes on them. See it right there? Number 1, Phillips screwdriver. Focus in here. I want everybody to see this. Our young folks, that's a number 1. They come in number 2 and on up. So I've already sized this one, and it is the perfect fit for that Phillips screwdriver right there, okay? Perfect, that's what you want. It doesn't move around. And make sure that the tip of the screwdriver is in good shape. You don't want a bunch of, reamed out, notched out type heads on your screwdriver when you're trying to do something like this, which is very important, because if I muff this thing up, we're talking $200 down the toilet, okay? Make sure it's cleaned out. Make sure all the notches you see there are cleaned out. Even if it were a flat tip screwdriver, you want to make sure it's clean. Don't have paint in it and grease and crap and gook. Clean them out. Make them look good. And make sure the screw head that you're getting ready to put the screwdriver in is also cleaned out. And this thing has been in there for, it looks like, about 3,000 years. But I'm going to try to go ahead and take that out. It runs around the other side. There's nothing on the other side but the just the screw head. You see it right down there by my thumb, the screw head sticking, not the screw head, but the end of the screw. So my job is to hold that thing in place while I put a little pressure with the screwdriver against there and try to crack it loose and make sure it does crack loose. And then once it does, I should be able to lift it up out of there once that screw is completely removed. Let's see if I can pull it off. The screw is loose, and the way I did it was I took my hand. Now this is important. Again, we're talking $200 if it gets screwed up. I took my hand, twisted it this way, and I hung on to this. Remember, this thing goes left and right, depending on what side the record it has to play. So I wanted to hold it in the middle. I didn't want to be forcing it, jamming it this way, and I didn't want to be, slipping and pulling it this way while I'm trying to put pressure against that screw head. So I had to twist my hand kind of like this and get a hold of, there's a piece of metal, it looks like right there. Just go ahead and put my hand right there and hold it as tightly as I could while I took the screwdriver, pushed in the hole of the screw, the head of the screw, and turned it to the left, keeping it seated the whole time. Don't let it ream out the hole. Oh, geez, you do that. You ream out the head of the screw and you got big time problems, people. Alright, let's see if I can get it off now. I'll take the screw the rest of the way out. Well, we pulled it off. That's exactly what it did. Once I got that screw out that came through this hole here, this thing unplugged from the pickup arm. And you can bet there's a lot of oxidation down in those holes. That's going to have to be really cleaned and sprayed. The only way I'll be able to clean it is to spray it. I'm going to have to really spray it. Anyway, you'll notice something I found that was interesting. I hadn't realized the needle now. Look how dirty this needle is. God, this is awful. The actual needle is at this end of the cartridge head, but when you flip it over to the other side, the needle is at the opposite end. It's up at the top, right there. This also is going to need some very, very good cleaning. I'm beginning to wonder if this jukebox ever played at all. Look at the color of these pins down here. Very interesting. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lightly brush this thing with some alcohol and a real soft brush and see if I can't clean up some of that crap. I'll come back and talk to you in a minute. It'll either be clean. See, there's going to be three things. It's going to be clean, broken, or in the trash. The needle cleaned up pretty good on both sides with just alcohol. I used one of these acid brushes and just gently cleaned it. You got to be real careful. Gently. I didn't put any pressure hardly. Let the alcohol do the work. And then on the other side, this one also came out pretty clean. Needs a little bit more scrubbing. And these pins right here, using this brush, got off most of the oxidation. However, not enough to suit me. As you can see on the back side, there's quite a bit. So what I'm going to do is the old brass bristle brush trick. These things are great. They're soft. You know, they won't hurt hardly anything. I use them to clean tube pins a lot. Just go ahead and just gently, I'll go ahead and gently scrub each one gently. I'm not hardly any pressure at all. Just, you know, treat it like a toothbrush on a sore tooth, okay? You just want to barely clean it, you know. Let's see how it turns out when I get done. You'll notice one other thing on this head shell, I guess the red head or whatever you want to call it. There's like little things that you can grip right there, one on each side of each of the needles. There's one on the white side as well. And you know, that tells me I should be able to, they're there for a reason. I should be able to grip both sides and slide this entire plastic holder that has the needle in it out. And if that's the case, we need to clean underneath there too. Let me go ahead and grip that thing and then slide it out gently. And watch everything, you know, just rip apart and fall out on the paper. Well, as expected, it did. It just slid right out of there just like snot. Alright, well, what we're going to do, look how dirty those contacts are. Holy mackerel, look at that. That is definitely going to have to be cleaned up. You cannot get good audio pickup with this needle and head when they look like that. I hope this thing even works once we get it all together. Let me do some cleaning, then I'll pull the one on the other side out and clean that as well. But I'll show you the first one when we get done. Hopefully it'll be nice and shiny. Alright, they look a whole lot cleaner now. That looks much, much better. You know, I took a pencil eraser and just kind of gently went over that a little bit. Took away a lot of that corrosion. I didn't do it to here, but I did it to there. And hopefully that'll be good enough. If not, we'll have to come back. I might try the pencil eraser trick on that right there. I don't know the way this thing looks. It looks like we've got a pickup here, here, and here. I don't know. Kind of a strange setup. I want to be careful with it because I've never messed with this, so I don't really know what I'm doing. So I may just go ahead and leave it, slide it back in, do the same thing to the other side. Let me play with it just a little longer here. I went ahead and sprayed this whole mess here with a contact cleaner. And right there's the needle. I know you can't make that out, but the needle's right there, and it is very sharp. You see right there, really a sharp looking needle, and then you stick your finger on it, you get pretty well stabbed. So I don't know. Maybe this baby's going to work after all. Anyway, let's put it back in, do the other side, and then we'll move on. Alright, I better quit while I'm ahead. Put the old red head in there, and this little thing that the wife used to put when I was working. For my lunch, she puts things in there, you know, like little pickles and, you know, whatever, some onions for a hamburger or whatnot, and some ketchup for a hot dog or whatever. You know how it is. Anyway, we'll go ahead and put another piece of tissue on top, and then we'll go ahead and put the lid on and put it away for safekeeping. I have just removed our little screw that was up in here. It must have fallen off the lid because that's the only thing that's above this thing. Probably fell out of one day. One of the hinge screws might have fallen down and caught on this thing in back of here and just rolled down into there. And I have removed this screw on the side of our cover. That's this one right here with the wrong size washer. I hate stuff like that. Look at the size of that washer for that tiny screw. That is a bunch of crap. I don't like that. In the trash. Alright, now I'm going to come over here and we are going to remove this little snap ring. Behind that snap ring is a rubber grommet. And I think that the thing lifts up. I think it's like a U. I don't know. Let's get it off and find out. Well, the snap ring has been removed. All I had to do is take a small screwdriver and put it in that slot right there on this side, magnetic screwdriver of course, and then I just sort of lifted up with it with my hand over there to hold it with my thumb as I did, because I didn't want this thing go flying, you know. It didn't have a whole lot of spring action. Apparently it's been removed several times before. Okay, now let's see. Yep, now let's see if that grommet, I think there's a U thing. That grommet should slide out the bottom, and it does. Yes, it does, it does, it does. Alright, now I'm going to have to cogitate on this for a while. and try to figure out exactly how to get this cover off, because I haven't the foggiest idea what to do now. Well, nothing so far. I can't seem to get it to move, or I mean, it'll move, but it won't come off because it's attached to some stuff underneath here. However, there is a screw right here. Let's take it out. What do we got to lose? Nothing. Again, with the right size screwdriver, okay? This is a number 1. This, you know, I have to be real careful here because this is plastic. This is metal. Plastic, metal. We don't want to break any of the plastic. It looks to me like it's already got a crack in it, in the window that shines the light through. I don't know if that's a crack or just some dirt on the inside. Up there in the top window there. That shows you what, see, this shows you which selection you made, E7, E9, whatever. When the mechanism stops on the record, it'll light up and tell you your record is playing. Incidentally, one thing I read about that I didn't know about. You go into years ago, we'd go into the you know, the place where the jukebox is, where we put our money in, play some songs. And it would take forever for the song to come up. And sometimes it would play a song that a guy put his money in after we came in. He put his money in and his songs would play first. That kind of torqued us off. I never could figure out why. Well, now I know, many years later. It didn't play the records in this you know, in order of which they were selected by the patrons. It played the record that came first, as it went back and forth here. So, you know, it may play 3 or 4 songs before it even gets to yours. Well, now I know. How about that? It played it in order, and that it was in the rack, not in order of which the patron did his selection and put his money in. I want a refund. Well, no luck yet. This is a lot of fun. You know, this book isn't helping at all. You go down here and it tells you, remove this, remove that. Yeah, right. Alright, let me keep working on it. Well, I may have found something. Up underneath this thing is one of those ball-pinned clips. See, it's a rod with a ball on the end, and it snaps down through a couple of retainer springs here. Let me back up a little bit. See it? So that means I ought to be able to slip a screwdriver or something between the white and blue bar. Let me do that. See if it'll pop loose. Gently does it. Look at that. Well, she's up. We're making some progress. I think this thing has to get out of the way before we can take the rest of it off. Alright, let me skull brain the rest of it. There may be one on the other end. Yes, there was one on the other end. So let's see what happens now. If there's any wires and stuff fastened to it. By the way, that light bulb right there, see that light bulb? That's what lights up through that little window there and tells you what record is being played. You can always walk up to the jukebox and say, "Oh man, it's not playing my record. It should have played by now." Okay. I don't see anything holding it. Well, there it is. There it is, folks. Aha! Now I know why. I have to have access to that screw in order to get this cover off. Now, what about this? I don't want this thing to break. I better put that screw back in there until I figure out for sure. It would just be my luck. I'd pick it up, this thing would fall off, hit the concrete floor, and break, and I would be very upset. Okay, you see how easy that was? We just had to sit there and skull brain it. All you professional jukebox repairmen out there, you got nothing on us. No. Alright, that screw is out, and again we have the extra large washer. I do not like that. I just can't hardly handle stuff like that, you know. It's not like washers cost $50,000 a piece or anything. Alright, let me put the screw back in, and we'll see if we can't lift it up. Now here's something that irks me to no end. Check this out. The thing is not even connected there. Let's see what the other one does here. Where's it connected to? Connected to... Apparently, it's got to be connected to that pin right there somehow. We'll have to worry about that later. right now. I know how that thing broke. Taking this off and putting it back on, it just popped right off. I'll tell you one other thing. Here's something I always hate to see in a radio. Bits of solder like that. I do not like when I open up a radio and it's got bits of solder on it. I'm like, oh no. You know, that's sloppy work, first of all, and it means more work usually for the guy that's trying to restore it. Well, I'm going to have to very gently and carefully look. Well, maybe not. Maybe it'll come right off, and it does. Ooh, look at that mess. Yes. Oh man, are we good or are we good? Look at that. I wonder how much of that stuff is broken, busted, disconnected, soldered wrong. Oh man, this is going to be great. Now someone mentioned that, boy, you're really moving fast on this restoration. No, we're not. Anyway, I have more gluing to do, so what I'm going to do is wrap up this video here. Tomorrow we'll take this baby out. First I'm going to skull brain everything and eyeball it and everything, make sure everything looks copacetic. Copacetic, there's another word for you. And then we're going to go ahead tomorrow and spray it down with brake cleaner and get this thing as clean as we can, alright? Got to get this crap out of there. Anyway, until next time, I hope you enjoyed this part. I sure did. Look at all these contacts. Wow. Let me get a little closer view here for you. Look at those contacts. Man, oh man, oh man. Yeah, by the way, those contacts are coated, those contacts are all coated with gold, a very, very thin layer of gold. So it's not like we can sand them down or run sandpaper through them or anything. That's no good. We'll have to do it all with spray and a very, you know, like a hairy brush, real soft hair brush. What is this? I don't like this. Okay, well, let me see. Okay, that's the same spring right there. Yeah, they just stretched the spring down to make it work. It's all part of this spring up here. Probably the wrong spring. They just stretched it down to make it work. Alright, like as I was saying, until next time, this is John. Oops, I forgot something. I do it every time. There was one of our subscribers noticed that Elvis Presley was on the top glass of this jukebox over in the right hand corner up at the top, the vertical. So you got the angled part and then you got the vertical part, and it was over here in the right hand corner of the top. And he said, well, what is the song there that's associated with that picture? Well, there is none. This is the Artist of the Week version of the jukebox that Seeburg's had. There was, the DS160 is the same way. There may have been others, but it would every so often that Artist of the Week picture would change. I never was a big Elvis fan. He came along a little bit before my time, so I think what I'm going to do is put who I want in there, and I know who it's going to be, and I'll show you who it's going to be when this project is finally completed and nothing works. Okay.